Hello, Julie here and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's video is for Off the Rails Scrapbooking. Their mood board for September 2020 is black and white with just a dash of red, but it could be any colour I guess. I decided that today I would make some cards for my design team inspiration for this mood board. I bought a couple of Anco 6x6 paper pads. One's called Mono Metallics and one's called Marble, and they're the papers I'm going to use for these three cards. I've also had a bit of a fossick around to see what I could find to use on my cards in the way of lace and texture, and I've got some hand cut flowers there that I've stamped, embossed and cut out. So I'm going to use those on my cards today. I've chosen a white marble paper from the marble pack and I've cut that 5 inches square, and then I've chosen the black and white stripe that you can see here and I've cut that to 4.5 inches square. I take a piece of white cardstock and I cut that so that it's 5 inches by 1.5 inches. I then cut a strip of this spotty netting to use on my card as well. I've had these ribbon flowers in my stash for a long time, so I thought it was about time to get them out and use them. I'm just going to cut one off and then fussy cut all the netting off around it to use on my card as my focal embellishment. I wanted a strip of black over the top of my white, so I cut a piece of black cardstock 5 inches by 1.25 inches to layer on top of that white strip that I'd cut previously. I use a Martha Stewart scallop edge punch to punch along one edge of both the black and the white. I thought that the net was getting a bit lost behind there, so I cut some gauze to lay on top of the netting so that I got a bit more definition and bulk. I also had these red ribbon flowers in my stash. I think they were Craft. I think they both were from many eons ago. And I cut one of those off to add to my cluster. I also used this paper rose, and I'm just twirling the wire section at the bottom of the rose around my poking tool just to give a little bit of a swirl. I also dug some skeletal leaves out of my stash and I'll add them to my cluster. Now that I've decided on the layout for my card, I go ahead and ink the edges of all the papers and then use my hot glue gun to assemble the card front. My greeting for the card comes from this 13 art sticker collection. It's called His and Hers Remastered. I attach the sticker to a piece of white cardstock and then foam mount that onto the front of my card. I don't have video showing it, but you will see it in the close-ups at the end of the video. I do add sequins to the front of this card to finish it off and give it a bit more glitz. Because my card base is black, I decided to put a piece of this marble sort of looking paper on the inside so that when I want to write on it, you'll be able to read it. So I go ahead and cut that down to 5 inches by 5 inches, and then I use double-sided tape to attach that to the inside of my card. That completes our first card for today. I wanted to add some extra texture to the back of my second card, so I took a piece of dark marbly looking paper from the pad and I applied some Montmartre modelling paste through a Craft stencil. I can't remember the name of the Craft stencil, but it was a 12 by 12 that you cut into 4 sections. Anyway, I put the paste through that and then set that aside to dry. While I was waiting for my texture paste to dry, because I don't like to dry it with my heat gun, I let it dry naturally, I cut my papers for the card. I cut it's on a white card base that's 5 1/8 inches square. The black cardstock, plain black cardstock, I cut to 5 inches square. The white lined paper, I cut that 4 3/4. And the texture paste once it's dry, I cut that to 4 1/2 inches square. When I actually put the texture paste on this piece, I didn't have my stencil lined up exactly square, so I squared it up when I trimmed the cardstock down. Time to think about how I'm going to decorate this card now. I have some Finnabair lace offcuts that I'm going to use one piece of that, and I've cut another piece of the white check paper. I've cut that 1 1/4 inches by 4 3/4 inches, and I've cut a piece of black cardstock that's 1 inch by 4 3/4 inches. Now I'm going to ink around the edge of all of my papers using a black ink pad, and then I'm going to use my Aleene's original tacky glue to attach all of my layers to my card front. I put some craft foam behind the black strip that's going to be attached on top of the white check, because I want that to be raised up off of the card. I have used this Heartfelt Creations stamp called Posy Patch, and I have stamped and heat embossed every one of the layers. I think there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers, and I'm going to use these as my focal embellishment on my card. I'm going to shape them, so I'm going to spray the back of each flower with a bit of water, and then I'm going to use my flower shaping tools to give the flower a bit of shape and so they don't sit flat. I'm going to roll into the back of the flowers, and so they sort of puff out to the front. Once I've shaped my flower and attached each layer on top of the other, offsetting the petals and using my sticky glue, I'm going to add a little black pearl to the centre of the flower. I think these are a Kaiser pearl. This is when I decided that I wanted to add one of those little pearls to the centre of each one of those texture paste flower type shapes on the front of the card. For the greeting on this card, I used a Hero Arts stamp kit that I have. It's called Small Greetings, and I'm going to use the one that says Just For You. I'm going to stamp that onto a piece of white cardstock, cut it down to size, ink around the edge, and then mount it to the front of my card using foam tape, or a piece of craft foam actually. I did stamp it twice because the first time I stamped it I didn't get it straight and I wasn't happy with it. I used my hot glue gun to attach my handmade flower and my greeting to the front of the card, and that completes the second card for today. And so on to our last card for today, which is a shaker card. I haven't made a shaker card for some time, so I'm looking forward to making this one. I'm going to use my Spellbinders S6 squares, so they're decreasing size squares. I'm going to use 2 squares to cut my frame, and then the largest square to cut this piece of white marble paper. The clear panel that I'm going to use I have also cut to the same size as the marble frame, and that is a piece of laminating pouch that I use to laminate something, and this is an offcut from it. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to attach it to my frame using my Aleene's original tacky glue. I'm going to use my black Versacolour ink pad to ink around the edge of my clear frame and my backing panel. Because my frame is 1/2 inch wide, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch wide foam tape to make my frame around the back that's going to hold my glitter. I'm going to use that fine red glitter. So it has to be completely sealed. So I'm using the foam tape, but I'm also using the liquid glue, and I'm making sure that all the corners are sealed so that my glitter cannot escape. Try to make sure there's no glue on the inside of the acetate, and then I go ahead and add my glitter. I don't want to put too much glitter in there because I do want to be able to see it move. You generally make the mistake of putting too much glitter in the shaker, but I don't want it to be so small that you can't really notice it behind the embellishment that will be on the card front. When I'm happy with the amount of glitter that's in the shaker, I go ahead and attach the back panel, that marble paper. I peel the double-sided tape backing off and also add some more glue to this. Once again, I want to make perfectly sure that this glitter is not going to escape. Now that my shaker component is ready, I'm going to start work on the rest of the card. I'm going to cut a piece of black cardstock that is 5 inches square, and this is going to be attached to the white card base that I'm going to use. And then I'm going to use the same glue to attach the shaker element to the black panel. To embellish the front of my card, I've got a silk flower out of my stash. I think it's a Prima. I'm going to use my hot glue gun to attach it, and I've also got a couple of the gold skeletal leaves to add to the cluster. The cluster still looked a little bit flat to me, so I got a piece of black lace and tied it in a bow and then attached it sort of just poking out from underneath the flower. Once again, for my greeting, I'm going to use another one of the stamps from the Hero Art Small Greetings collection. This one says Best Wishes. I'm going to stamp that onto a piece of white cardstock, trim that down to size, ink around the edges, and attach it to my card using some foam. So that completes my last card for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching my video. Pop over to Off the Rails Scrapbooking and check out their mood board. You may find it very easy to create a scrapbooking layout or something using these colours. If you have enjoyed my video, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. Thank you.